growing up, you'll think twice about complaining about, oh, that snow outside or the line at the checkout counter. On the surface, he looks like any other basketball player. Tall, athletic, quick. But Silver Laku is anything but ordinary.
When I got the head coaching job here, we had one scholarship at the time, and I couldn't be more proud of the fact that Silver was our first signee under my tenure as the head coach here at Western.
Silver's a guard on the Western Michigan basketball team. He knows all about jump shots, but what makes his story so unique is that Silver knows about other kinds of shots, gun shots.
When I was born, that was the time the Silver was going on. But so it went on, it cools on, it goes on.
Silver was born in Africa, the Sudan. His family was forced to flee the violence there and headed for Uganda. His family finally stopped running when it landed in a refugee camp in Kenya. But the trouble didn't end there.
It was something to do with like theft. You know, people came in there and just shooting around, and my dad got shot. But the worst thing was, the worst trauma was he was shot in front of me. So that was the toughest thing I had to carry myself. I was outside with him. The rest of the family was inside.
For a young man who escaped a civil war, escaped genocide, he sounds calm, confident. But that's just Silver's nature. He turned 21 a few weeks back, but has already experienced more than most people have seen in a lifetime.
When I first met with Silver, you know, I knew the story. I knew what had gone on in his life, and I started to talk with Silver and said, Silver, it's you know, I know you've been through some tough things, and you're responding. And he said, I got about that far, and Silver said,
everybody goes through a lot, but it's just the way you control your life. You know, sometimes you end up doing bad stuff, or you end up just being yourself and learn from it.
He says talking about the pain helps. So does basketball, a sport he picked up in Canada in the mid-90s after his family finally left Africa and moved to Toronto.
As soon as school was done, I was on the court, so and that was one thing that helped me get through the trauma that I went through with my dad. So basketball was always like something that distracted me.
After what he and his family had been through, learning to pass, dribble, and shoot a basketball was no big deal. But the cold Canadian weather was.
The first week we got here, you know, we got to the airport, and then next thing they gave us so much jackets, because I never had a big jacket in my life until I got Canada. And then, you know, we wore those jackets, and the next day it snowed in the morning. I looked outside the window, it was just like all snow, like a couple inches, and I'm like, wow. So I ran outside. Even though it was cold, I didn't feel the cold for a whole week. But after that, I just stayed inside.
He worked on his game, eventually getting good enough to earn a scholarship to WMU. Silver's only a sophomore and filling a reserve role for the Broncos. He works hard, pushing his teammates in practice, and when he's not in the game, he always pumps them up from the sidelines. His coach says that goes a long way.
Someone complaining about playing time, you know, all they have to do is look over at Silver and say, I don't really have a lot to complain about.
Humble to the core, Laku hears statements like that all the time, but he doesn't let them change his view on life or the way he views himself. After all, he's got a lot of it ahead of him.
I still feel like I'm still trying to achieve something out of this, like my life.
He's a basketball player, so Silver has dreams of the NBA, but he's also looking into social work or teaching. We do have more